So that is what, like gives me comfort. In knowing that he is still around and that he's still present and he's still, he's able to do a lot more for me now than he could before.
Jesus, let me know, but they show no fish. Didn't say you found it, but she's still gonna hold on. Didn't say you found it, but she doesn't want.
Hey everyone, welcome back to A Widow's Journey, Strengthening What Remains. And today we have Francisca on our show, and I am so excited to hear her story of how she is journeying now and strengthening what remains as a widow. Hi, Francisca.
I think you froze up a little bit.
Rosa, okay,
Yeah,
you
just
hear
a
me
little.
now?
Yes, I can hear you
Okay,
just fine.
perfect. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I can start from the beginning. So,
Yeah.
Terrence and I were together for 17 years, and we were married for almost 8. So our anniversary would have been on 10/4, which was a very, fun and easy way to remember our anniversary. Um, so it's interesting because Terrence told me about his health struggles when, like, I want to say like 2 weeks into our relationship. He was very transparent about what he was dealing with. On September 22nd, Terrence would have been 52. So at 25, he had a major stroke and it blew out his kidneys. So he was a second time kidney recipient.
Okay.
And when he passed, or when he transitioned, he was on dialysis for the third time in his life.
Oh, wow.
So the entire time we were together, he was what, the medical industry would consider as sick, but spiritually, he was not sick.
Right,
People would have no idea that he was dealing with what he was dealing with.
right.
There were many times where I feel like, sometimes I didn't know what he was dealing with because he would put on a face of, just like pushing through and keeping going, keeping it moving forward. He always said that it could always be worse. And, I found that to be very interesting because I'm like, I'm crying over a hangnail and you're not crying over like what you're going through. So,
Right.
I mean, I think that that was one of the most amazing things about him is that he really was able to give perspective, or he is able to give perspective on, like just what it is to, the idea of suffering, like what that is. And for him, he was always very faithful. A lot of times he had more faith than me. And that was really, really comforting to see because I'm like, well, if you can have this faith, then maybe I can have it as well. Um, so, we are, I feel it's interesting to say this and it's, some people might say, huh? But I really do feel like this process of him transitioning has strengthened our relationship because I know that when I was connecting with him while he was here in his body, I was connecting with his soul.
Hmm.
So, and the soul never dies. Like that's energy. Like it keeps moving. It continues. It just might take another form. So now I'm just transitioning into a space of being able to recognize him outside of his body.
Hmm.
There have been moments where I felt him behind me really, really strong, which is very comforting. When the day that he passed, we have an altar, and we go to the altar for different things. Or we would go to the altar for different things. So I knew what it felt like to be at the altar with him, like doing, breathing exercises and just being with him. And that night, he was standing behind me so strong that I felt like if I were to turn around, he would be there. So that is what, like gives me comfort. In knowing that he is still around and that he's still present and he's still, he's able to do a lot more for me now than he could before. He's with me a whole lot, like, a bunch now because like he was in his body before. He couldn't be in many places, but he is, I really do feel like he's with me like so much, which is very, very nice.
Yes.
Um, I feel like I'm kind of getting to that stage right now. And I don't know if it's because the holiday season, but I'm getting to the stage of like kind of being not upset with him, but like annoyed. because I feel like he is where he is and he's having a great time, and I am here still trying to navigate what life is going to look like for me. We haven't had any kids, and that was something that we definitely wanted to have. So now it's just me by myself, which, I can't say that it's worse than someone who has kids, but I don't have the reminder of him through a child, which is sometimes upsetting. But also, I'm very clear that, what is meant for you won't pass you by. So, I'm really trying to stay focused with, okay, it's me. Now I get to pour into myself. What does that look like? How am I going to move forward through this journey? I feel like I'm saying so much, and I feel like there's so many things that I could say.
It's okay.
I really do feel like the first part of my life was like watching a really beautiful movie, and that I would watch over and over again. Like I would do it with Terrence over and over again, because the love that I received from him was love that I didn't even know existed. And
Mm-hmm.
I really do feel like it helped me to be who I am today. And now I'm kind of like at this new movie where I'm like, I don't know, how it's going to end. I don't know the plot. I don't know what's going on. But like, I'm just here to
You're
see.
the main character now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're the main character now, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, how's this script about to be written out now, right?
hmm So,
Mm-hmm.
and also like that's really none of my business too, right? Because it's kind of like
Right.
just moving forward and just following my feet and following how I am guided by God, by the universe, by Him, by all the ancestors that came before me. Just like following and trusting me moving forward and just like saying, okay, one step at a time, one moment at a time, one moment at a time. So while and it's interesting because before I was very much like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and then this is what's going to happen, and this is what's going to happen. But that old saying, when you plan, God laughs.
Uh-huh.
And it's kind of like, I just don't know what my life is going to look like. And while that is
Right.
very exciting, that's also very kind of like, oh, that's
Ooh.
this is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean that's a little bit about our love story.
Okay.
Um,
So with Terrence knowing that he was sick and like you said, he was always upfront about his health issues with you, did you guys ever talk about like, you know, death, like what he wanted for you, if he was to pass or if you was to pass before him? Did he ever talk about that?
I mean, to be honest, we would like a little bit, but not seriously. And because he was so sick, he wasn't able to really be covered because, insurance companies, they won't cover sick folks, which is very
Just sick.
problematic. But,
Yes. Just sick and
that's like a whole other episode of
yes,
your
yes,
of this
yes.
of this podcast. But so like when it happens, while I wasn't like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What the thought that I had in my head was, this is the moment that I've been thinking about. And this is the moment that is here now. So what are the things I need to do? And when it happened, I'm very much like, give me a list, let me stay busy. And I didn't realize that that was a form of grieving, like just staying busy, always doing something, always doing something. So, I got into like go, go, go mode. I took a week off of work and just like took care of him. I know that I definitely knew that he wanted to be cremated. So I took care of his body first. Um, and then when that happens, then, thank God for my sister and my niece. My sister was like, I insist that you move in with me. Because I really just want to be with you and I want to make sure that you're okay. And I feel like you being in the apartment that you guys shared is going to be hard for me to be able to really see where you are emotionally. And I want to be able to keep tabs on that. So, and for me, it was hard to live in that apartment. Like days later, I was always looking at the door. It was
Mm-hmm.
really tough. We just got a kitten like right before that, right before he passed. Because we had a pit bull that was 13 years old that passed in December. And
Oh.
Terrence had never been right after we put down Brooklyn. But
Mm-hmm.
we had the pit bull, and we got the kitten because we were like, okay, to help us ease out of the death of the pit bull.
Yes.
And it's so fascinating because the kitten, I feel like Zulu, I feel like he's so traumatized,
Oh,
um, which sounds a little funny for some people, but like
no.
just meows like crazy. That night he was stirring a lot, like he was moving around.
Yes.
Um, just his energy was off. And I do believe that like he saw a lot of him, because I
Hmm.
believe that animals can just see and kids can just see, like
Yeah.
they're closer to it. The veil is very thin for them. And I feel like he's like traumatized. So like it's just, my black cat and I now. He's very clingy.
Mm,
So it's almost like having a child, where it's
right.
like
It
you need to be
is.
able to take care of him and
Yes.
make sure that he's okay.
Yes.
Um,
But only
but
animal lovers will understand that.
yeah,
Because I'm an animal lover, and
yeah,
people are like, well, it's just a dog. No, it's not just a
mm,
dog. This is
yeah,
like my child. Like, it's not a
mm,
child. I mean, I have children, of course,
right,
but it's like, the care, the love that, you give them, and then they give back. It's just like,
hmm,
you know,
yeah,
only animal lovers would definitely understand that. So I can truly relate to your cat
hmm,
being traumatized.
yeah. And that cat loved Terrence. Like he would lay. Terrence was very much like, I don't want a cat person. He's gonna suck my breath. Blah 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 blah. Very old school, And I'm like, no, he's not gonna suck your breath. Like it's gonna be fine. Cut to like a couple of weeks later, the cat would just like lay on him like a scarf, and he would just allow it and say he can't move because the cat is on him. So
Hmm.
they definitely had something, and I think
Yes, we
that
had a
that's
connection
what
for
had the
sure.
cat stir. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so like to get back to your original question, we didn't really plan for it. But I just knew he wanted to be cremated, and I made sure to take care of all of his like credit cards and any type of debt that he might have had. But 5 months later, I'm still getting drips and drabs of like different things that he was attached to, which is sometimes unearthing the feelings that I had
Okay.
5 months ago. And I just hope the paperwork stops coming because it's like it's really getting to a point where it's like, okay, like I thought I called everyone. And like with the holiday season coming up, it makes it a little
Yes.
harder. This is going to be the first holiday season, so on and so forth. So, um, I'm trying to like stay positive and just like take care of myself, whatever that looks like, um, and just like move forward. And I feel grateful for my family, and
Yeah.
my friends because, there was this really amazing video that I saw on Instagram where this woman was talking about, having friends is really great, but it's a matter of having those is really about those friends who sit with you in the caves of life, where
Yes.
they just like will just sit with you and they don't even say anything, but you know that they're there and they will sit with you. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just need someone to sit with you and hold your
Yeah.
hand, and not even give anything, just be there. So,
Yeah.
I am fortunate enough to have some folks that are like that, which I'm grateful for. And, for the folks who didn't know what to say or, just have their own understanding of what death means.
Right.
I give them grace because I'm like, I understand that you don't understand, and I can't, I just don't have the space in my heart to take
Yeah.
that on as my own.
Yes.
Um, and you know, whatever it is, however it is you're feeling about it is however you're feeling about it, and it's okay that you didn't reach out when you could, because I know that everyone is grieving.
Right. And
Yeah.
like I say that too, like when my husband passed, it just puts a lot of things in perspective for me.
Mm,
Like things I used to care about, like I was the person that, okay, this had to be on time here, this, that, everything had to be planned. Now I'm just like, all right, well, if today this happens, it happens. If it
mm,
doesn't, it just doesn't. Like I don't even have the mental capacity to even
yeah.
take that on. So I so understand you, but I'm so thankful. Like when you said that your sister told you, like, come on with me. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't even want you here. Like that made my heart smile because
Mm,
I know how that feels, and it's
mm.
just like that was so good of her, and I'm thankful for your sisters for her to even do that for you.
Mm.
Kudos to you, sis, because she stepped in
Mm.
as the sister to say my sister needs me, like forget whatever else is going on. I need to know that my sister well-being is okay. Because a lot of
Mhm.
times, I mean, we go and we cry in the room by ourselves, you know,
Mhm.
because we don't want to overburden someone. Like, oh my God, they're seeing me cry again. You know, it's almost
Mhm.
like that. Like, I don't want somebody to think like, dog, she's crying again. But like, yeah, I'm sad, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, this was my person, you know. So I'm thankful for your sister. I'm thankful that you have those friends. And like I said, your sister saying, girl, come on. Like,
Yeah.
you not gonna be in this apartment by yourself.
Mhm.
You and this cat. Let's go.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure that has helped you so much. That's why you're still able to even sit here now and say, well, you know, I'm you know, you're coasting through this, you know, not to say
Mhm.
that you're fully okay, but you're getting through it, you know, you're putting one foot in front of the other, like you said. And I'm thankful for your village, for you, because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't have that, you know.
Yeah. I can't imagine what it would have been like if I didn't, you know, and
Right,
I'm just like so, so grateful. Um, and it's just, I don't know, this whole experience is just wild, you know.
right.
That's like the adjective that I can only think of when it comes to this, because it's like there are moments that are really great, and there are moments that are like, oh man, you know, like
Yes.
I didn't think that I was gonna be, you know, a 42-year-old widow
Right, right.
in my sister's, you know, house with a cat.
Right,
Like,
right.
like
Right.
who
Like,
thinks
who
like that?
wrote this script? Like,
Yeah,
who wrote this script? Because I need to
yeah,
go back to the director. Like,
yeah,
hello,
yeah.
this,
And
you
then, you know,
know.
the other part of that is like, okay, so if I've experienced that, then what greatness is about to happen?
Right.
You know, like what greatness is about to happen? My mother was talking to her friends, and her friends was like talking to her about like just, you know, the idea of losing Terrence and like all of us just grieving. And her friend was like, you know, Franny, which is my nickname, um, really was an amazing wife, and like did like really follow God's word when it came to being a wife. She took care of him. She did everything that she needed to do. She didn't even think about it, but she did it. And like what she is about to receive is gonna be greater than what she can even expect. And you
Yes.
know, I never thought of it that way, like, and I didn't realize how much I was doing until I wasn't doing it. You
Right.
know, because I was just
Right.
like, okay, let's go. This has to get
You're just
done.
doing it. Right. It
Yeah,
has to keep doing. You're not even thinking like, oh, okay, you need this. We gotta give you a bath. We got or whatever you had to
mhm,
do. You were doing it
yeah,
without any, I'm sure without any hesitation. And
right,
you would have continued to do it. You know, you would have
absolutely,
continued to be doing it like without
yeah,
any hesitation, without any
mhm,
hesitation. And I'm sure he's so appreciative
yeah.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think so. And of course, I wasn't doing it for that reason, because it was kind of like I was doing it because if I were in that situation, I would want someone to do it for me, you know?
Definitely.
So I know that he would have. I mean, the amount of papers and the undergrad papers and grad papers that I wrote in the hospital, anniversaries that we spent in the hospital, but like I was with him, you know, and
Right.
it was what it was. I wasn't like, oh no, we can't go out to dinner. It just was what it was. So,
Right.
um, you know, I'm grateful to even know that my heart can expand in that way,
Hmm.
and has the capability of just being able to be stretched in that way. Um,
Right. And
yeah.
you know how they say, like, you know, people are made for certain people, and you were definitely made for him. Like,
Mm,
because someone else probably could have been complaining, like you said, you wrote papers, you was in the hospital, anniversary in the hospital. Somebody could have easily said, "Oh, I don't want to do this." You know, I
hmm.
didn't sign up for this. You know, I see it all the time with people, but you were definitely, you know, made for him. And
Yeah.
you know, God anointed you with that to be able
Hmm.
to whatever came, it wasn't anything to you. It was just you did it without any thoughts, you
Yeah.
know?
In the
Yeah.
beginning, when he told me what he told me about his illness, I really had to get clear with myself and say, okay, do I want to be with this guy because I want to help him, or do I want
Mm.
to be with this guy because he's a good guy? And there's a
Ooh,
difference in the two. Like, I
there
don't want to
is.
be, you know, I didn't want it. My intention was not to be anyone's nurse or like to help them through, because I felt bad for them. But I'm like, this
Right,
is a good guy, you know,
right,
and what's possible, I don't know.
right.
Um, And, at the end of it, I'm like, I feel grateful that I took that step because I'm like, okay, like I would have never had any of these experiences and like felt the deep love that I felt if
Love.
if I wasn't with him. And, there's
Right.
people who, live lifetimes and don't get to experience the greatness
No.
of love.
No.
And I really do feel like it's fundamental to who we are as human beings. And I
Yes.
am happy that I'm able to be able to say, I'm one of the ones that is able to say, I was able to fully experience what love is.
Right.
And even the loss of love, like there's still love there.
Yes.
So there's something to be said for that as well.
Yes, that's so good. So like what have you done now, like, or like taking on a hobby or something that now is replacing the time that, because now you have idle time because I'm
Mhm.
like you said, you didn't realize all that you were doing until you weren't doing it anymore. So have you like picked up on a hobby?
Yeah. So really no hobbies. I mean, I I really no hobbies. I mean, I had hobbies before, or no new hobbies, I should say.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
like I love taking pictures on film cameras, and like just the idea of like going in the bathroom and like getting my hands wet with chemicals and like putting it on the reels and then like looking to see if I was able to get exposure. So that's one thing that I actually kind of put down a little bit. But what I will say too is that I had a trip to Ghana in August. And the
Okay.
interesting thing is that I had this trip booked, I want to say like 6 months out. So Terrence was still alive. And there was a
Okay.
part of me that felt bad because I'm like, oh, you're going to be staying here for 2 weeks by yourself. And I'm going to be in Ghana, like living it up. Um, and he was like, no, just go. Like, it's fine. Just go. He was very much that way.
Hmm.
Because, when you're on dialysis, like you're kind of tethered to
Right.
any states that can give you the treatment.
Right.
So any international trips were hard. Any cruises were definitely very hard. Like we didn't get to
Yeah.
do those things. But it's interesting because when he passed, I was like, wow, okay, I still have these tickets to Ghana. I still want to go. And my immediate thought was, how different is this trip going to be now? And like spiritually, like how different
Right.
is it going to be?
Right.
Um, Now the context has definitely shifted, right? So, I usually make fun of those people who are like those eat, pray, love like stories. I'm like, oh, something happens and they go away, and like, oh, can that really happen? So now I'm laughing at myself because I'm one of those people. When I went to Ghana, it was like so amazing. I mean,
Right.
honestly, Nicole, it felt like I was able to leave something behind. And I don't even know what that thing was. I
Wow.
can't even name it. But when I came back, I felt like I had been charged. Like
Wow.
it's kind of like your phone is dying and then you
Yes.
plug it
And you
in
plug
and
it
it's
in.
recharged. It
Yes.
moves so much faster now. It can like go to different apps very quickly.
Yes. Yes.
Like
It's
the
moving
pictures
now.
are brilliant. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I feel like I had that moment of like, oh wow, this was an
Wow.
amazing trip. It's a spiritual shift.
Yes.
In which direction I'm still not really sure, but I
Yes.
really did feel taken care of while I was there. I felt like he was there with me. So it wasn't like I was experiencing things alone with just my mom, but like there was so many moments where I felt his presence, and like he wouldn't have been able to go if like
Right.
it wouldn't have been the same experience if he was alive.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
so it was very like I think that that's one of the things, the ways in which I was able to pour back into myself, unintentionally, but also like intentionally knowing that I was going and he wasn't going and that he had passed.
Right.
Um, yeah. So I also therapy is one big thing that I like am a big cheerleader for. My therapist saw us through a lot of different and saw me through a lot of different spaces. Um, and now we're here and she's like, wow.
So you two went
Last
to therapy together before?
so actually it was just me.
Okay. Okay.
It was me just going to therapy. So like when I
Okay.
talk about like how I'm taking care of myself, it was just me. So I'm
Okay.
still seeing my therapist. Taking care of myself through. I have a great acupuncturist who is also very spiritual, and he taps in. And Terrence used to go and see him as well. And then my altar, I still pray
Mhm.
to it. I still ask for healing with Terrence. I still like use my spiritual beliefs and being able to, fulfill myself and like just make
Yes.
sure that I'm taken care of. Um, and working out is also very important too.
Oh
Just
yeah.
being able to move the
Yes.
blood in your body and like circulation and bringing in good oxygen. Um, so yeah, so just like really making sure that I am doing the things that I can do, and not
Right.
really trying not to worry about the things that I can't control.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I think too, that definitely, like I said, what happened to me, because before I was such a, this has to be like this. We have to write this down. We have to
Mm-hmm.
plan this out. Now it's just like, well, I realize I'm not really in control here.
Mm-hmm.
I just gotta go with the flow. And the more
Yeah.
I try to be in control, the resistance comes, against that, whatever that needs to be. So I'm learning too to kind of just like let it flow, how it's going to happen, and it saves me a lot of heartbreak, as I should say, or headache,
Mm-hmm.
of trying to control everything. I'm glad that you are definitely that trip to Ghana. Just I would want to say it's almost like it gave you new air,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like you came back, like as you was first saying and how you went there and was describing it. All I can see what it was just like you were getting new air pumped into you, or almost like dialysis. You know how they got to
Mm-hmm.
regenerate blood, and it was like this was you now, like you were coming back, like woo, like I feel so
Mm-hmm.
refreshed. So I'm happy that you even still went on with that trip, because like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you had planned before Terrence had even transitioned. So for you to go and then you feel him there, and I know it was just like, wow, like this was an experience of a lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
the experience of a lifetime for you. So I'm happy for that,
Yeah.
Sometimes I get happy to hear that, other widows are really out here doing it, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, the widows was like, my old aunts and
Mm-hmm.
grandma, they just sat around and still just weeped all day. And it's just
Yeah.
like, y'all don't want to get out the house,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's like that wasn't a representation for me, of being a
Mm-hmm.
widow. You just kind of figure your whole life is over. And it's like, well, really, it kind of like just begun, because now you're on another journey. Now it's like now you have discovered really who you are,
Mm-hmm.
in the midst of this, and or discovering, the new you, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you still went on that trip to get out. Like you
Yeah.
actually did it, regardless if you went with mama. Shout out to mama too. Mama went with you, mama was like, come on, most
Mm-hmm.
people don't have that either, they don't even have somebody to go with. So I'm thankful that
Mm-hmm.
you were able to still do that. You did that trip and stuff. So but my question to you, another question to you is, as a widow now, what advice would you give to new widows? What would you tell them to do during this journey? What advice can you give?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, people have been saying take one day at a time, but I think it's important to take one moment at a time,
Mhm.
because so much can happen in a moment. And I think it's important to be able to, while it's important to like feel what you're feeling, it's also very important to like stay present. Um, because I think a lot of the times, I will say for myself, when I feel myself spinning, it's usually because I'm not present, and usually getting myself to like, okay, I'm here, I'm sitting at this computer, I'm talking to a pole, like
Mhm.
getting myself present to what is in front of me helps me to kind of like reshift, refocus, and be able to feel what I'm feeling, right? But like
Mhm.
just to know that I'm in a safe place with a safe person.
Right.
Or, if you don't feel like you're in a safe place with a safe person, like being able to focus to go to a safe place and a safe person. Last Friday, I told this to my therapist and she was like, whoa. I was having feelings of like just bubbling up of like sadness. I was at work and I never, okay, never cry at work. And I went to the bathroom and I allowed myself to release. Um,
Yes.
so like in that moment, I was like, okay, I feel these feelings coming up, what am I going to do about it? Am I just going to run home, or can I somehow regulate myself by allowing these tears to come out and like just have that moment? And like when I
Right.
was done, it was fine. You know, it was just like a
Right.
moment. And, you know, so like that's why I'm saying like just being able to take the moment as the moment comes helps to it just helps me with focus. So I would encourage all widows to try that and just to take that on, just to take things moment by moment, and whatever you're feeling in the moment is brilliant and it's fine and
Right.
it's where you are and it's where you need to be and it's okay, and don't make yourself wrong for having any type of feelings. Like even if you're laughing, it's okay to laugh. You know, if you're crying, it's okay to cry. If you're upset, it's okay to be upset.
Yes.
You know, and for me it's like if I have those moments of where it doesn't feel in character and I've impacted another person, even if I don't feel like I've impacted another person, then for me it's all about being responsible and going to that person and saying, you know what, I'm dealing with something right now. I apologize if that landed in a weird way. And I think that you know just takes a lot of like focusing yourself too, like, and it's okay if you miss those moments too. You know, like if you have a moment where you're upset and you impact another person, that's okay too. It is what it is.
Right.
But I think, you know, grace is also very important too, and not only for other people but like for yourself, like having that grace. So getting focused and having grace is what I would say.
Yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree with everything you say, especially the grace part. I think we just don't give ourselves enough grace,
Mm,
sometimes because I don't know. I don't know. Our minds just fools us, and
mhm,
making us feel like, oh, well, you ain't doing enough, or you ain't healed enough, or you ain't. And it's
mhm,
like you're getting up every day, putting your best foot forward. You're
mhm,
doing. Give yourself some grace, especially when you are dealing with a death. And I know that I've had people. I always say I've had people that die around me. Grandparents, cousin, but nothing struck me like the death of my husband.
mhm,
That did something to me. Like it
mhm,
literally woke me up, and my spiritual journey has increased as well. But it does give you a new sense of saying, you know what, I got to give myself a little bit more grace than
mm,
what I was doing before.
yeah.
um yeah, that's definitely a good word for the widows. I so appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey, and we definitely got to keep in contact. Do you want people to get in contact with you if anybody wants to reach out? Do you have any
Sure.
means? Yeah, you could give your Instagram handle, or however you have a website.
Yeah, I mean, you know, anyone who wants to reach out, you're more than welcome to. My Instagram handle is Noble Diaz, NobledIaz. Terrence's last name and my last name is Nobles, with as in like plural. So Noble, NobleDiaz. And that is my Instagram handle. I'm double checking it just to make sure.
Oh yeah, that
Yes,
was
that is
triple
what it is.
checking. Yeah,
And you know, it's
that
funny.
was
I never give out my handle, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But yes,
right.
Noble Diaz. Um,
Okay, perfect.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
just in case if anybody wants to reach out to you, I always, give you guys handles. You never know, somebody else may want to interview you, and I'm all for it, because this is our journey, and I want
Mm,
your stories heard to not just on my platform, but to others as well. And like I said, I thank you so much for coming on, sharing your journey, giving the widows some good advice. I
mm.
appreciate you so much. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem.